So good morning and welcome to the regular meeting of City Council for Tuesday, June 13th, 2023. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Reverend Burgess. Mr. Coghill.
Here.
Ms. Gross.
Here.
Mr. Kraus. Mrs. Strasburger.
Here.
Ms. Warwick.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Lavelle.
Here.
7 members present.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to ask all members to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our next order of business is to amend the agenda. Is there a motion to amend?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The agenda has been amended. Our next order of business is proclamations. We do have one from Madam President. She's on our way in, so I'll defer until she gets in to do the proclamations. Next is public comment. I would like to remind all speakers that the rules of council state that comments are limited to matters of concern, official action, or deliberation, which are or may be before city council, and profanity is not permitted. Once you are called, please restate your name and provide your neighborhood for the record. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Our first registered speaker is Joanna Deming.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joanna Deming. I'm the Executive Director for the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council. Thank you for having me. I am here because I want to support the forward movement of the land bank and the tri-party agreement. The issues of land and food access are intricately linked. The Pittsburgh Land Bank and the Food Justice Fund are linked together. Food justice requires access to resources as well as land. Often agriculture is seen as temporary while waiting for physical development, but people need food on an ongoing basis. Land ownership and controlling one land is critical for farmers. Farmers work years on land that they do not own or control, constantly at risk of losing it, unable to get loans or grants because they don't have assurance of their long-term investments. The Pittsburgh Land Bank is a unique tool that can provide critical path to ownership or permanent usage for farmers. It can provide land for affordable homes in the neighborhood so neighbors can benefit from those agricultural improvements. It can provide land for high quality green spaces, including meadows and rain gardens, so our pollinators can support the growth of food. Farmers are already working on city-owned land, and we're so grateful for the Adopt-A-Lot program and hopefully the Farm-A-Lot program. However, they don't have long enough leases nor ownership enough to really do what they want to do oftentimes. And we know that there are other tools for getting land, but they're not working adequately. The treasurer sale properties go to the highest bidder, which oftentimes is not the farmers. The side lot programs require that you live in a certain proximity and may not be eligible for those farming the land. And the URA process is often intensive, expensive, and overly complex. So we ask that you support this tri-party agreement moving forward so that the land bank is uniquely positioned to work with specific buyers, prepare property for sale, have an efficient, affordable process to get those properties into ownership. So I'm asking that this tri-party agreement move forward so urban agricultural initiatives like the ones that we work with that have rented or leased city land or even work on private land can move towards ownership and long-term stewardship, such as the 3 gardens proposed by the Allegheny Land Trust, which you'll hear more about. Also support the bond financing for affordable housing, because if we improve our communities, if we provide ultimately all the food access needed, and yet those residents are pushed to areas with worse transportation and worse housing, we've accomplished nothing. So we have to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next registered speaker is Rayden Sorok.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you. My name is Rayden Sorok. I'm the Director of Community Projects at Grow Pittsburgh. I live in Wilkinsburg, but I have been working with Grow Pittsburgh for more than 11 years in the city. And Grow Pittsburgh was integral in the Adopt-A-Lot process at its origination. I'm commenting today because I'm also in strong support of the land bank process and the tri-party agreement in order to create more opportunities for gardeners and farmers in the city of Pittsburgh to have a more permanent ability to stay on their land. As Joe Deming said, so many of these projects invest a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and money and infrastructure into spaces that they don't have long-term tenure in. So this is a great opportunity for those individuals and organizations that have put in so much of their time and energy and resources and have put in so much of partners like Grow Pittsburgh's time and resources into being successful community assets that grow food in our neighborhoods and also are a great vehicle for bringing people together who may not otherwise have the space to meet. I want to particularly offer my support to the Old Allegheny Community Garden, which has been a fixture of the North Side for 40 years. The Kincaid Street Community Garden, which is providing an amazing resource to local youth in particular, and to Hillcrest site in Garfield, providing much needed stormwater management and green space and as a beautiful retreat in the city. As Grow Pittsburgh has worked with over 120 gardens in the county over the last 13 or so years, we are in strong support of the land bank providing an option for greater land tenure for these projects so that they can continue to be community assets for years and generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next registered speaker is Angela Williams.
Good morning, Council. Thanks for letting me speak today. As he said, I'm Angela Williams. I'm a tax-paying city homeowner in Perry South on the north side. I'm also president and executive director of a small CBO and RCO, Charles Street Area Council. I'm here to advocate, like most everyone else, and I want to present to you two perspectives, one personal, one professional. Now, personally, I've had a tough time, to say the least, with trying to purchase the side lot next to my home. In 2014 actually, I was part of the first cohort with what was then GTEC, which is now grounded, for the vacant lot reclamation program. I've stewarded that lot for 8 years, and to this day, I still don't own it. I've gotten some support, much support from Grounded, Grow Pittsburgh. I've interacted with them. It's just a nice vacant space. I've had it cleared, I've had trees removed, I've had planting days, I've invested what's been estimated to be about 10 grand in a lot that the city cares nothing about. Why can't they let me own it? I feel like a sharecropper. On a professional level, let me just say that as this executive director of a CDC of a low to moderate income area, Charles Street Valley in Perry South, that is predominantly 98% people of color, we're talking immigrants, Hispanics, and Black people. The valuation of property, or should I say devaluation of property there, is abominable. And the reason why the devaluation of property is occurring there and in other areas throughout the city is because of the city's disinvestment and the lack of coordination between government entities to facilitate small community groups and larger developers who may want to partner to come up with plans to make purposeful lands. The legislation that property transfers are using right now is 25 years old. And during the past 25 years, if you look at our city, there are walkable distances where land is 4 times that value of the same exact lot, size, square footage, and if it has a structure on it, it's equivalent in the next area, but that area has a whole bunch of vacant lots around it. So if you would vote to not only pass the legislation, but also come up with real clear guidelines, and processes, more transparent, less bureaucracy on how it could be done, that'll be helpful. And also create a long-term plan for funding it, please. We absolutely need to make sure that the staff who is there, who has good relationships, who is new, who is motivated and dedicated, has all the resources they need to work with small community groups to stop the blight and reverse the curse.
Our next speaker is Jamie Marie Christian.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Jamie Marie Christian. I'm the executive director and founder of an organization called Let Us Turn Up the Beat, Sustainability Collective. We're based in Carrick. I'm here to call upon council to approve this agreement so the land bank can help urban farmers, specifically Black women, single mothers, immigrant and refugee farmers own their land. Farmers are already working on city land but need a more permanent arrangement. The ability to grow food for our communities improves food access and security for everyone. We have significant immigrant and refugee populations popping up all over Pittsburgh, primarily in the corridor where we're at, in Councilman Coghill's district, also in Shadyside, Greenfield, Northview Heights. Those are some of the farmers we're working with. Supporting access to land for the urban farmers to grow culturally appropriate food, appropriate food recognizes the connections we have to our food, which go beyond nutrition and strengthening connections to our families, cultures, and environments. Access to foods that matter to people help recognize and empower our communities and even strengthen the food system. This isn't just about making culturally relevant foods more available. It's also about the long-term health of immigrant and refugee families and our children. Public health studies show that immigrants and refugees are more likely to develop chronic diseases such as obesity, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes from eating the American diet. We also have the highest amount of childhood obesity of any country, which is very sad. We have the obligation to ensure all people have access to healthy food, especially those who struggle with access. Immigrants and refugees often struggle with food access, especially when they must adhere to cultural and religious dietary restrictions. And I'm asking that the agreement move forward so the urban agriculture initiatives that have rented or leased city land in the past can move forward towards ownership. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Naomi Mullen.
Here, I honor my husband, who is a true City of Pittsburgh public servant from the 1970s until 2021. Shady trees, not shady deals in Bon Air. This is for you, Michael. We, the people of Bon Air, are the real stakeholders. We have paid our mortgages, taxes, and voted. We have shown up at the town hall meeting to give a resounding no to developing the building, which is the old Bon Air school building. We have signed a petition to say we want a green space, not a building. We have property value and quality of life to protect. According to the Pennsylvania Constitution, the purpose of government is for the peace, safety, and happiness of the people they serve. The Bon Air Memorial Green Space is the solution for the peace, safety, and happiness of the Bon Air community. Without that, there is no valid governance. Here's the situation. An excellent school was closed. The building has become a threat and detrimental harm. It should be condemned and sold to the city for $1. It must be torn down. Parks and trees, Pittsburgh funds used to make it a green space. The residents of Bon Air care for it as volunteers. The city controller is the fiscal watchdog for the citizens of Pittsburgh. It is the job of the controller to protect city tax dollars from waste, fraud, and abuse. Michael Lamb should have attended our meeting to explain why the waste, fraud, and abuse continues. Waste of thousands of dollars per month. Fraud perpetrated by the claim of community support for the sale of the building to a developer. Abuse is occurring due to the threat of blockbusting and intentional infliction of distress. Why won't he advocate for we the people who have been harmed by this detrimental building? Who does he serve? The Pittsburgh Public Schools stated World Health Organization guidance when it closed schools for months. Why would a Pennsylvania school district use the private global club, the World Health Organization, as the authority to shut down our tax-funded public school system? This points to further waste, fraud, and abuse. Sweden and Florida are two examples of superiority and business and education outcomes. StopTheWho.com. No more global governors or city councils or global Pittsburgh Public Schools decisions. StopTheWho.com. It is no wonder that issues with the school district persist. Checks and balances do not exist when the same person is the controller for the city and Pittsburgh Public Schools. Is that a conflict of interest? The Memorial Green Space is the solution for the peace, safety, and happiness of the Bon Air neighborhood. This was read at my husband's funeral. Retired Deputy Chief Mike Mullen touched the lives of many people. His uncompromising dedication to his sworn duty to provide for the safety of the citizens of Pittsburgh was truly exceptional and one that should be emulated by every firefighter.
Thank you. Our next registered speaker is Dr. Ronald Lynn Miller.
Dr. Ronald N. Miller, Bells Hoover, and Florence Italia. Math unites us, identity politics divides us. The Global Intelligence Society U.S. National Candidate for President 2024, globalintelligencesociety.org. A concern of on vote by voter verified for whom counselors of Pittsburgh is to validate LGBTQIA identity. A parallel concern is to not invalidate non-LGBTQIA identity, to have it both ways, but one, assigning artificially, bewitchingly, generated homonormativity in which lesbian female and gay male are the primary anti-natural base pair oppositionals to primary variable status in gender served sex identity formation requires relegating naturally biologically grounded heteronormativity in which XX female and XY male are the primary anti-faux base pair opposites to secondary variable status in sex secures gender identity formation. Pittsburgh offices of mayor and council are doing this. The pro-LGBTQI ideological position of local governments, including Gainey and Cale Smith-led Pittsburgh government, may appear to be both and inclusionary, all are welcome, but that's not true. It is fundamentally exclusionary either or. Gainey and Cale Smith, homonormativity must be anti-heteronormativity. And similarly, number two, local governments like Pittsburgh's prefer using ideological, more subjective, selectively vexed, tilted information offered in very loud mode, creating confusion. Is math deficient over using ideationally more objective, scientifically verified information, which is more lean, code-based, that creates more clarity, assent and dissent over resentment. Math proficient. And thirdly, what is really happening is that there's this favor toward animated human chip embedded quality of human, and that is being rejected over something which is much more comic and AI embedded. This is a big problem, and Ms. Strasburger knows it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Raynice Kelly. Is Ms. Kelly with us? I do not see her. Our next speaker is Randall Burns.
My name is Randy Burns. I am a garden coordinator for the Old Allegheny Community Gardens located in the Mexican War Streets. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I'm here to call on council to approve the land bank agreement so the land bank can help gardeners and urban farmers like me to own their land. Over 40 years ago, Old Allegheny Community Gardens were envisioned by a black activist woman who engaged the then mayor of Pittsburgh, Richard Caligiuri, to make the gardens happen. They have been cherished ever since. We currently have 37 gardeners. Approximately 16 of those gardeners have plots on 3 city-owned lots. There's quite a sense of community among our gardeners developed from the joys and challenges of urban gardening. For some of our gardeners, gardening is certainly a hobby. For others, our families really depend on the food that is produced. In addition to finding a variety of fruits and vegetables growing in our gardens, you'll find an assortment of flowers which change from season to season. The garden is a respite that is visited every day by our Mexican War Street neighbors and visitors to local attractions. Occasionally, you'll find artists painting garden scenes. Every year, we see tutors and parents bringing their children into the garden to teach them how vegetables grow. The current real estate market in our Mexican War Streets neighborhood is quite attractive to developers these days. Becoming part of the land bank and then gaining ownership through a land trust would protect us from being developed and guarantees our 3 city-owned plots would always be a place for gardeners in our community. Being part of the land bank and then ownership through a land trust would assist us with our insurance expense, which would allow us to keep the garden dues affordable for all. Councilperson Bobby Wilson's office has been very supportive of our efforts and has us on the do not sell list, and we're currently part of the Adopt a Lot program. Although these are both fantastic, it doesn't guarantee that the lots won't be sold to a developer at some point in the future. Given the history of our much cherished garden and how it is used today, it would be absolutely heartbreaking to our gardeners and to our community at large to lose this space. That's why I'm asking that the agreement move forward so urban agricultural initiatives like our historic Old Allegheny Gardens that have rented or leased city land in the past can move towards ownership, along with the proposed Kincaid and Hillcrest sites. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tom Mulholland.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. My name is Tom Mulholland, and I work at the Allegheny Land Trust, who owns and conserves green space in several locations throughout the city. I'm here today to show my support for the Pittsburgh Land Bank Tri-Party Agreement Amendment. Allegheny Land Trust is a Western PA-based nonprofit land conservation organization with the mission of conserving and caring for local land for the health and well-being of current and future generations. We have a strategic priority to advance equitable access to green spaces through our community conservation priority. I work with community members, community groups, nonprofit partners, and other stakeholders to protect quality green space, preserve the quality of life benefits that green infrastructure brings to a community, and to expand access to high quality outdoor space. Through a partnership with Grow Pittsburgh, called the Three Rivers Agricultural Land Initiative, Allegheny Land Trust also works to ensure long-term land tenure to community gardens and urban farms. Many existing urban agriculture projects, as you've heard, are currently operating on land leased through the city on a short-term basis. While leasing through the Adopt-A-Lot is great, funders and other supporters limit their investments in things like environmental restoration and expanding garden infrastructure until that long-term site control can be established. The extent to which Allegheny Land Trust can secure long-term site control for garden projects and other community green spaces is limited by the existing public land disposition processes. Currently, these processes are seemingly unnecessarily lengthy and subject to disruption. The Pittsburgh Land Bank represents an opportunity to create a faster and more consistent system for land recycling. They can use their expedited quiet title powers to move properties more efficiently from the city's inventory, and in time, they'll also be able to assist with the sheriff's sale process. As such, Allegheny Land Trust supports the approval of the amendment to the Tri-Party Cooperation Agreement and looks forward to partnering with the city and the land bank to reactivate vacant land into productive reuse for today and for the future to come. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ebony Lunsford Evans.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Ebony Lunsford Evans, and I am an urban farmer and also a business owner. I'm here in support of the land bank. As an urban farmer, currently I operate 2 urban farms on the Adopt-A-Lot program. One of them is actually in jeopardy of being taken away from our organization, and we've invested lots of money, including Grow Pittsburgh. And I'm just coming to you as a business owner as well as from a fresh food corner store, and I cannot take one piece of fruit, vegetables that I grow on the lots and sell it in my stores because I don't own the land. Although the land that we do farm on is great for the community as well as youth all the way to seniors because we do have productive programming. However, my store is in jeopardy of closing down as an urban farmer because I have to purchase food outsourced just to run the store, and it would just be a tragedy as the only Black female in this city with a fresh food corner store to have to close down based off of ownership. So I'm asking you to consider the land bank's proposal to come together and release the land for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sunita Patel.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to let me speak. My name is Sunita Patel. I'm an alumni from the University of Pittsburgh School of Law. And one of the classes that I took while a student there was Wicked Innovations. And our goal was the initiative was to assist or get some of the lots in the city, some of the vacant lots in the city of Pittsburgh green. And I support the resolution for the tri-community agreement, and it would help residents have more ownership and would boost the morale of the community. As a longtime Pittsburgher and Hill District resident, I can recall that the lots were manned by the city and kept by the city, and that's no longer true. So when you walk in the community, you see the vacant lots, and I'm here to support the greening of them, and it would help, again, boost the morale of the community, give the residents a sense of ownership, and there are some statistics that I don't have here at hand, but my professor, Stephanie Dangle, I'm sure she will speak more about them. And I will end here, but I wanted to urge you to pass the legislation to let the land bank and the other organizations in support of this grounded move forward with owning and greening the lots. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Halil Halib Chandan Kunin.
Greetings, in Laika King. I am a Aboriginal American matriarch, and my title is Yajalaji Chinalka'i. My comments today are to invoke my people's constitutional indigenous rights. We are the original beings, the original stewards of our ancestral lands, which is of the Americas, including the islands, as you would call the United States, which is actually a corporation. A corporation is a business. My people are recognized in multiple maxims of law and documents such as the Constitution of Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, and excluding Indians not taxed, the Delaware Treaty, the Northwest Ordinance, the UNDRIP, the ADRIP, House Congress Resolution 331, and the list continues. The city is under the jurisdiction of the state. The state is under the jurisdiction of the government. Are you going to uphold your oath to the Constitution? This is genocide upon my people, and that is treason due to your Constitution. Our ancestral lands cannot be owned, especially stolen land and stolen resources. According to the UNDRIP, which is Article 28, Section 1 and or Clause 1, indigenous peoples have the right to redress by means that can include restoration or, when this is not possible, just fair and equitable compensation for the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned or otherwise occupied or used, and which has been confiscated, taken, occupied, used, or damaged, otherwise they're free and without their free and prior form consent. We are not to be confused with Title 25, Native Americans. We are not immigrants. We are not foreigners. We are not citizens. We were never naturalized through your commercial system. So again, I ask and I request, are you going to uphold your oath to the Constitution?
Thank you. Our next speaker is Pomai Chakmam Yahelihi.
In Lakek Alaka'een, everyone, the light in me honors the light in you all. And I stand with all Aboriginal American people as we continue our fight to be repaired, to be restored, to have remedy. I am the Grand Inca Chief Council member of the Iroquois Confederacy of Aboriginal American People, and I'm the Grand Inca Chief of my nation, the Ojibwe. I was co-chair for Urban Ag Working Group of the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council, and I am a member of Trolley, a partnership between Allegheny Land Trust and Grow Pittsburgh. I have shown, as my ancestors have shown, the hand of peace to all of the immigrant foreigner citizens upon our lands. I've done work in all various communities and aspects of people doing agricultural work in the community to provide sustainable food for all of the people. So there's no question, my loyalty is to my people, and my hand of friendship has been extended to all of the people on our land, the Aborigines. I support protecting land for growing from future development, for the people to grow food for all of the people. And in our law, the Great Law of Peace, Wampum 44, it says the lineal descent of the people runs in the female line. The lineal descent of the people of our nations shall run in a female line, and our women shall be considered the progenitors of the nation. And we shall own the land and the soil, and our men and women shall follow the status of their mothers. And the law of ownership in Wampum 72, the soil of the earth, from one end to the other is the property of people who inhabit it by birthright. The Onwe, the original beings, are the owners of the soil which they occupy and own, and none other may hold it. The same law has been held from the oldest times. Now, I will say our people extended an opportunity for our land to be shared with your ancestors. But when you continue to take and you continue to isolate and alienate the Aboriginal American people, you violate all of our treaties. You violate your oath to the Constitution and excluding Indians not taxed, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. So now is the time for everyone, since we're giving honor to people's identities and how they choose to identify, and the LGBTQ plus community gets rights and privileges. The Aborigines are the first of these lands, and our rights have been trampled on, and I say no more, no longer. People will be held accountable in law. So let us work together. Let us be equitable in the sharing of Aborigine American Indigenous lands. And I support all of those who spoke before, because they are truly honoring our land, being good stewards of the land. And I yield.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Abdul Kadir Chirambo.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Abdul Kadir Chirambo, and I'm a farmer in the city of Pittsburgh area, located in North Charles Street. Today, I'm here to support the land agreement with the council here. What we do is making sure that we have the appropriate food that we normally eat back home, especially culturally grown food that we need to have in the city of Pittsburgh, where like it's hard to find in the retail store and any other places around Allegheny County. Is very limited, either a big retail store or a small around community store. So today we're here. As I'm here today, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'm here to call on council to approve this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Stephanie Dangle.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Stephanie Dangle, and I'm a professor at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law, where I teach a class on greening vacant lots in the Hill District and Hilltop communities of Knoxville. This class is taught to both community members and students from the University of Pittsburgh. Our class has been working to adopt and green 4 vacant lots through the City of Pittsburgh's Adopt a Lot process. While this is an important first step in greening vacant lots, a land bank would provide a pathway to ownership by community members who are caring for those lots. A land bank would also allow the community gardens to be permanently protected through the Three Rivers Agricultural Land Initiative. I ask that you pass the tri-party cooperation agreement to move the Pittsburgh Land Bank one step closer to helping residents acquire land quickly, efficiently, and affordably. Numerous studies have shown that greening vacant lots improves public health, safety, and economic outcomes of the surrounding neighborhoods, including a 69% decrease in feelings of depression, a 29% decrease in gun violence, and a 13% increase in property values, which helps to raise much-needed tax revenue for the city of Pittsburgh. Thank you for your time and consideration. I would also like to thank the staff and board of the Pittsburgh Land Bank, the city's Adopt a Lot program, Grounded Strategies, Grow Pittsburgh, and the Allegheny Land Trust for their efforts to green vacant lots in the city of Pittsburgh. If you would like to contact me, I can be reached through my Pitt email address at sad111@pitt.edu, and I'd be happy to share the results of the studies I've cited in my remarks today. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dorcia King. There we go.
Good morning, Council. I'm Theresa King, the owner of Yoni Steam 412, Pittsburgh's first herbal detox spa specializing in women's reproductive health, since April 2019. I'm also a community steward for the beautiful neighborhood of Larmer through the Grounded program. I created the Goddess Garden Herbal Flower Garden to help educate the community on herbal medicine and to use for my herbal detox services at my own business to assist women in the healing of their wombs. So please help me and others keep Pittsburgh's land bank green, beautiful, and in operation. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tab Duckett.
Good morning, Council. My name is Tab Duckett. I live in Larmer, and I work through Grounded, and I'm the type of person that takes care of blighted area, and I'm tired of blight in my area. It's changing, and I encourage a functional land bank that cares about residents and not developers. And I've been doing it for 15 years now, and I just hope we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charmaine McDonald.
Good morning, Council. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Charmaine McDonald, and I live in the community of Homewood. For many years, I have been taking care of the empty lots around my area and then some ways away from my area. I don't like to see the lots full of paper, excuse me, overgrown grass and different things like that. So I take it upon myself to cut it and to keep them clean. I am really concerned about this community banking. I would like for us to have the land, the people who take care of the land, to be able to purchase the land in order to keep it clean and in order to grow different vegetables or whatever they choose to grow on it, good stuff. But any old way, I've been doing it for years. I also volunteer with Grounded. I never went to them, they found me. They know that there was a woman in the community of Homewood faithfully every day cleaning somebody's lot or somebody's street. I just think that wherever you live, you're supposed to keep it up, especially the lots. When you go to the city, they always say that they don't own the lot, that's the residents' lots and this and that. They always have an excuse. So I took it upon myself to start taking care of the lots. And then it dawned on me, if I'm taking care of the lots, why can't I own a lot? Why can't I have one of these little lots that I'm taking care of, But Grounded has been really, really helpful with me being able to take care of the lots and also the streets. So I would like to see in the future that people are able to purchase the lots so they're just laying dormant. And if community people like me don't take care of them, then you're going to have the raccoons to continue to move in. They're going to bring their cousins and everybody else, So I'm just saying, please think about the land banking for the people. And I'll still be around to support and help out the best I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Has Raynice Kelly joined us? If not, Raynice Kelly, has she joined us? If not, that exhausts our list of registered speakers. Anyone in chambers wishing to speak, please come forward at this time. Provide your name, neighborhood for the record. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Mark Masterson. I'm Executive Director of the Neighborhood Community Development Fund, located on the north side of Pittsburgh. I also am a member of the Pittsburgh's Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board, and I'm a resident of the north side on Waldorf Street and Observatory Hill. And I'm here to speak on behalf or in favor of amending the tri-party agreement to get a functional land bank in the city of Pittsburgh. In 1984, the Second-Class Treasurer's Sale Act was passed by the legislature, and the way it was implemented by the city for probably 25 years didn't work to recycle any of the properties without a lot of heartache, treasure, and time by community developers and others in the city that were trying to do green lots and side yards. It would take up to 2 to 4 years to actually acquire vacant land that no one else wanted for community organizations to redevelop them. There was some hope in 2014, and I can't believe I'm saying that, it's almost a decade ago, when City Council adopted the land bank, that process would change and that the city would be able to take the massive amount of land that it's taken through the treasure sale and start to get that back into things like green lots, farm co-ops, and also developing affordable housing for folks in the city of Pittsburgh. That hasn't happened because the tri-party agreement doesn't enable the city to do that. So what I'm hopeful for is that this changes and that the city is able to put their lots that they kind of own, because if you understand the treasure sale process, you really don't have clear title to it. That's why it takes so long to recycle these properties. The land bank is a tool to fix all of that so we can produce more affordable housing, which we're in crisis mode right now, and to allow a lot of the folks that you've heard from today to continue to do what they're doing and actually do more of it and do it more efficiently and more effectively. And you can fix that, and the opportunity to do that is now. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning, Council. My name is Becca Simon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm a resident of Garfield, but more importantly, I'm a director of programming at Grounded Strategies. So today we've been able to hear some of the amazing voices and stories of so many residents for years and years who've been taking care of the vacant lots that are under the city's care right now. They've been doing this work for free and without any pathway to ownership. Some of our residents have been waiting 6 to 7 years for side yards. 6 to 7 years. If we had tools like the land bank, we'd be able to move these properties through and provide these properties back to residents and communities at subsidized rates. We also have residents waiting for properties bigger than side yards for the cost of $7,000 to $10,000. How is that fair when these lots are the ones that are impacting their communities? Residents haven't been causing these vacant lots. This is a much bigger problem of systemic issues within our vacant land processing system, as well as a bigger problem around displacement in the city. We need to have a sense of urgency, and so I encourage and urge the council to move forward the tri-party cooperation agreement. It's been years. The land bank needs to function. Other cities are way ahead of us. There needs to be a sense of urgency. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is John Hanrahan. I am a proud resident of Fineview, vice president of the Fineview Citizens Council, and member of the Housing Working Group of the Fineview and Perry Hilltop Housing Working Groups. In light of the climate emergency, it is clear that within cities, the cost of housing must fall and the availability must rise. We can't expect this from the private market, though, since its actors, us homeowners, landlords, developers, depend on the opposite conditions to build the wealth that they have been promised. So for the sake of our planet, we need a new economy in which ownership is collective, supply is abundant, and profit, equity, is limited. So that's the big picture, right? I'm here today to talk about the affordable housing bond issue, and I recognize that exactly how this money is spent is going to be influenced and decided by many, many people, so I'll simply invite us all to consider the possibilities that this bond issue represents. You could do more of the same, which is good stuff to be clear, supporting renters, low-income homeowners, and friendly developers, or you could find a way to direct these funds toward the programs and pilots that will most stridently and permanently attack this perilous and ridiculous housing market. I'm talking a limited equity co-op pilot. I'm talking partnering with the Housing Authority to build and acquire new housing that attracts and subsidizes renters from all income brackets. I'm saying let the public sector and its nonprofit allies compete openly and hostilely with the private market. I'm saying if you aren't getting angry phone calls and emails from the Apartment Association of Metropolitan Pittsburgh, you haven't gone far enough. Later today, you will also discuss the land bank, which I agree it will help increase affordable supply. The proposed process of transferring property from the city to the land bank, you got planning finance, land bank board, and then one final vote by city council. That's a rigorous process. It's fair, and it's more than enough to guarantee that our land bank finally begins to make a noticeable difference and to prevent the co-opting of our land bank by the unfriendly developers. I will say a word of caution, though, on the prospect of too much process. In Fineview, we've seen an affordable housing project delayed for months by two neighbors who view a lack of side yards between the houses as egregious enough to take the matter to court. Every additional step in the process of producing new affordable housing is an additional opportunity for someone to delay and dilute progress. So I am hopeful that we will see an expeditious tri-party agreement in place by the end of the summer. Thank you all.
Next speaker.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dan Dalton. I'm a resident of Morningside, and I am a staff member at PASA Sustainable Agriculture, a statewide ag nonprofit, and a co-chair of the Food Policy Council's Farmland Access Subcommittee. I'm speaking in support of the land bank generally and the tri-party agreement specifically. We know through our work as community members and community organizations that green space, community food growing, be that for-profit or nonprofit, helps to increase food access to culturally appropriate foods, as Abdul mentioned, increase food sovereignty for those communities who lack it, and helps to be a step in dismantling food apartheid in our communities. We also know, and we've heard from previous speakers, that there's a lot of uncompensated work that doesn't get factored into the remediation process in community growing. You're looking at soil remediation, you're looking at the community education that happens for both youth and adults, as well as community engagement. The ecosystem services that are provided by these remediated lots hasn't been valued to this point, but we think it's really worthwhile doing. And we know that access to green space increases property values across those communities where they are present. And so we think that all of that is worth consideration. We also know that a lot of our sites are not able to access USDA services because of a lack of tenure. Loans and grant programs require a certain level of control of a lot in order to access support. And the USDA is doing their part to adapt their services and their programs to meet the needs of urban growers, but it would be really great for it to be going both ways, coming from both the city and from the federal government. And finally, I want to say that I think that land access needs to exist on a continuum. What we have so far in Adopt-A-Lot is a great first step, but it needs to be complemented by a whole swath of opportunities for folks to access and get the type of access that's appropriate for their project, for their community, and for themselves. So I want to close there, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Siobhan F. Brown. I live at 715 Mercer Street. That's Katie Irvis Tires up at the top of Bedford. I came today because I was taking my grandchildren to school, and I got to talking to them about those 4 children that were in the jungle for a month, and they made it out. And I was explaining to my children is that they lived in that area and they knew what plant to eat, what seeds, what roots. Now, when I took nutrition, and when I was in college, I took nutrition, and what nutrition taught me was garbage in and garbage out. If you talk about our fat children, well, if they can't get fresh fruits and vegetables, because in our food bank, we don't get all of the stuff that, remember they could drive up and get food. It was a bag of meat and a bag of vegetables and so on. Well, whenever we get our food bank, we might get for Christmas, the woman got a turkey neck. That was supposed to be her Christmas dinner, a turkey neck from the food bank. That's the Catholic Church that did this. I'm coming down because when they're talking about this, one woman was talking about how she cleaned. Well, that's what I did up in my neighborhood. And I had asked to get paid. And I'm asking again to get paid. And the reason why, because she said about the raccoons, there was rats and raccoons that would actually come up where we were sitting at because of the food that they were throwing away. The one lady in our building, remember I told you that got attacked? She opened her door and they jumped her and she had 2 black eyes. Well, she's since moved, but I used to clean around it because the weeds was almost as tall as me. And she came to me and she said, "Thank you, baby. I don't have to go the other way." She would have to go another way. We couldn't even go straight down to Center Avenue. Now, I had came and I asked about getting paid. And the only reason why is when I was out there cleaning the sidewalk, Victor, who had worked for the Housing Authority, who was a supervisor, who worked with my husband, he said, "Oh, Miss Brown, so now you work for the city." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Anything past the curb is the city." So I cleaned all the streets, and I came down and asked them, and Miss Smith, if you remember, to come up and see, because I did 3 streets, and I was on the 4th. I did all the streets. I dug dirt, the weeds out. They haven't come back as they did from years before, because you have it used to be your union rep, Gloria, Miss Gloria, her son died. He was a union rep. She said that they told them that they can't come because of the big trucks. I'm sorry, I haven't finished.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers wishing to address City Council? Are there any further speakers wishing to address City Council? Seeing no further speakers, we move on to our next order of business, which is the presentation of paper. Oh, well, actually, we have proclamations. Thank you, Councilman Lavelle. You held the proclamations, correct? Okay, we don't have anyone here for the proclamations. Can you read that proclamation into the record, Madam Clerk? And then we'll go on to presentation of papers.
Councilwoman Smith presents, "Be it further resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh does hereby declare Thursday, June 15th, 2023 to be Elder Abuse Awareness Day in the City of Pittsburgh."
Then we have a motion to approve in a second.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Proclamation is approved. Thank you, Councilman Lavelle. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Councilman Kraus, too. And now we have Councilwoman Warwick. You want to do your will of council now? Sure. Do you want the Madam Clerk to read it, the whole, in its entirety? Madam Clerk, please read it in its entirety.
Councilwoman Warwick presents, whereas Pittsburgh's healthcare sector drives a substantial amount of critical care and support to patients, workers, and to our local economy, and whereas Pittsburgh's hospitals are ranked among the region's best for delivering quality health care that need constant investment and innovation, and whereas nurses have served on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic and been heralded as healthcare heroes, yet overwhelmed hospitals have led to overburdened nurses and other healthcare workers, diminished patient outcomes with increased likelihood of medication errors, patient death, staff burnout, and occupational injuries. And whereas the pandemic exacerbated staffing shortages in Pittsburgh's hospitals, which already existed, and moved them to crisis levels. And whereas patient safety and quality care are directly tied to staffing levels, with research showing patients in facilities with better staffing levels are less likely to die, more likely to recover, and less likely to be readmitted. And whereas unsafe staffing levels have driven the burnout suffered by many nurses and other healthcare workers and has led to widespread job dissatisfaction and the exodus from the profession by many nurses in the past 2 years and fewer nursing school applicants. And whereas mandatory adoption of uniform, minimal, numerical, and specific registered nurse-to-patient staffing ratios is required for competent, safe, therapeutic, and professional nursing care for the retention and recruitment of qualified direct care registered nurses and to improve patient outcomes. And whereas the Patient Safety Act will improve staffing, save lives, and improve overall patient care. It will save hospitals money and improve retention of highly skilled and trained nurses and demand accountability on the hospital industry. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh calls on state legislators to adopt House Bill 106 and Senate Bill 240, the Patient Safety Act, and to improve acute health care in Pennsylvania and help save the lives of Pennsylvania's hospital patients.
Can we have a motion to approve in a second?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Councilwoman Warwick, do you want to make any comments? Anyone
Thank you.
else? And the Will Council's approved then. And now we'll move on to our next order of business, which is the presentation of papers. And we'll begin with Councilman Reverend Ricky Burgess, Chair of Human Resources. And Councilman Coghill, thank you.
President.
Thank you. And Councilman Coghill, Chair of Public Safety and Wellness.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman.
You're welcome.
Councilman Coghill presents Bill Number 1628, Resolution amending Resolution 745, effective 2019, authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Public Safety to enter on behalf of the City of Pittsburgh into an amended professional service agreement or agreements with Axon Enterprise, Inc. for body-worn cameras and tasers to the Bureau of Police at an additional cost of $45,277,527.45 over 10 years. This new contract amends the existing agreement and includes new provisions for body-worn cameras, tasers, and other related support services.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Gross, Chair of Intergovernmental and Educational Affairs.
No new papers, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And Councilman Kraus, Chair of Public Works and Infrastructure.
No new papers, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. And Councilman Lavelle, Chair of Finance and Law.
Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman Lavelle presents Bill Number 1629, Resolution amending Resolution 89 of 2023, which authorized the City Controller to accept updated financial system account strings and pay invoices for those contracts whose funding sources shifted from the Office of Equity into the Office of the Mayor by adding an additional contract to the list.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Strasburger, Chair of Recreation, Youth, and Senior Services. Thank you, Councilwoman. And Councilwoman Warwick, Chair of Innovation, Performance, Asset Management, and Technology.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Warwick presents Bill Number 1630, Resolution amending Resolution 710 of 2022, authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Innovation and Performance on behalf of the City of Pittsburgh to adopt an existing government agreement through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Cooperative Purchasing Program and to enter into any related agreement or agreements and amendments thereto as necessary with Carasoft Technology Corp. for Google Cloud subscription services, Google Assured Workloads to provide secure storage for sensitive data on the city's cloud platform, and to Astronomer Cloud Scheduling, Tools, Training, and Installation Services, increasing the 2024 funding for Astronomer and Google Assured Workloads by $240,000 for a total not to exceed amount of $4,598,824.38. And Bill 1631, Resolution authorizing the mayor and the directors of the Department of Public Works and the Department of Innovation and Performance to enter into an agreement with Indoor View to improve the management of the City of Pittsburgh's facility spaces for the total cost not to exceed $12,600.
Thank you. And Councilman Wilson, Chair of Land Use and Economic Development.
No new papers, Madam President.
And myself, Chair of Hearings. I have one appointment and two communications. Let's take the appointment first, please. Thank you.
Council President Cal Smith presents Bill Number 1632, Resolution appointing Melanie Ngami as a member of the Planning Commission with a term to expire June 30th, 2029.
What's the will of the body? Do you want to interview or approve?
I'll motion to interview.
Motion to interview, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll get that scheduled. Thank you. And 2 communications.
Bill 1633, communication from Jake Pollack, Director of the Office of Management and Budget, submitting acting pay requests on behalf of the Department of City Planning for Flora Marion, the Mayor's Office for Audrey Wells, the Department of Public Safety for Donna Harper, and the Department of Public Works for Thomas Rahuba, per the acting pay policy revised in June 2018. And Bill 1634, communication from Michael Lamb, City Controller, submitting a fiscal audit of the Commission on Human Relations and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Trust Fund dated June 2023.
Thank you. And can I have a motion to read, receive, and file?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, that's approved. And then we move on to any unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business before council? Seeing none, we'll now move on to reports of committee for final action. And we'll start with Councilman R. Daniel Lavelle, Committee on Finance and Law. Councilman Lavelle. Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman Lavelle presents Bill number 1625, reported to Committee on Finance and Law for June 7, 2023 with an affirmative recommendation. Bill 1586, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Marshall Dennehy, Warner, Coleman, and Goggin for expert legal services related to litigation in the United States District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania for an amount not to exceed $17,951.85. Bill 1587, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Campbell Durant for expert legal services related to litigation in the United States District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania for an amount not to exceed $29,751.81. Bill 1588, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Spillman, Thomas, and Battle for expert legal services related to litigation in the United States District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania for an amount not to exceed $21,967.41. Bill 1589, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Dickey, McCamey, and Chacope, P.C. for legal services in connection with the police litigation matter for an amount not to exceed $5,478.15. And Bill 1590, resolution amending Resolution 731 of 2022, which authorized the 2023 fee schedule pursuant to Chapter 170 of the City Code by adding a maximum cap for zoning review fees.
You've heard the reading of the title of the bills. Is there any discussion on the bills? Seeing none, the bills are now ready for final action. All in favor of passage will vote aye when their name is called. Those opposed will vote no. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Coghill.
Aye.
Ms. Gross.
Aye.
Mr. Kraus.
Aye.
Mr. Lavelle.
Aye.
Mrs. Strasburger.
Aye.
Ms. Warwick.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Mrs. Kelsmith, President.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you. The bills having received the legally required number of votes are finally passed. Councilman Bruce Kraus, Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman Kraus presents Bill number 1626, reported to Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure for June 7, 2023 with an affirmative recommendation. Bill 1582, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure on behalf of the city of Pittsburgh to enter into an agreement with Bloomfield Development Corporation to provide a license, ownership, and maintenance agreement for jointly sponsored asphalt art on Friendship Avenue. Bill 1583, resolution authorizing the Director of the Department of Finance and the Director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure on behalf of the City of Pittsburgh to enter into certain temporary construction easements on certain properties in the 19th Ward of the city in order to advance the Mount Washington landslide remediation project. Costs for these temporary easements shall not exceed $2,875.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of the...
I have one more.
I'm sorry, you have one?
Bill 1584, resolution authorizing pursuant to Chapter 210, acceptance of gifts to the city of the City Code, the mayor and the director of the Department of Public Works to accept a donation from the Urban Redevelopment Authority of Pittsburgh in an amount of $200,000 for Ferrywood Park and playground improvements.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of the title of the bills. Is there any discussion on the bills? Seeing none, the bills are now ready for final action. All in favor of passage will vote aye when the name is called. Those opposed will vote no. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Coghill.
Aye.
Ms. Gross.
Aye.
Mr. Kraus.
Aye.
Mr. Lavelle.
Aye.
Mrs. Strasburger.
Aye.
Ms. Warwick.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Mrs. Kim Smith, President.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you. The bills having received the legally required number of votes are finally passed. And that moves us on to Councilman Bobby Wilson, Committee on Land Use and Economic Development. I have it here, so. Okay, I apologize, it's on my agenda. Do we have anything from Councilwoman Gross?
No, Madam Clerk. Madam President.
Can I have Councilwoman Strasburger, Committee on Recreation, Youth, and Senior Services? Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilperson Strasburger presents Bill Number 1627, reported to Committee on Recreation, Youth, and Senior Services for June 7, 2023, with an affirmative recommendation. Bill Number 1591, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of Parks and Recreation to enter into a sponsorship agreement or agreements with Chevrolet for the sponsorship of Pistons in the Park. The city may receive up to $3,000 per year from this sponsorship. Bill 1592, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Parks and Recreation on behalf of the city of Pittsburgh to enter into a professional services agreement with Green Gears for waste management services in conjunction with the city of Pittsburgh's Independence Day Festival, and an amount not to exceed $11,300. And Bill 1593, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Parks and Recreation to enter into, on behalf of the city of Pittsburgh, a license agreement or agreements with the University of Pittsburgh Department of Physical Therapy for implementation of the On the Move program at no cost to the city. The city will receive $1,000 in revenue for each site that participates in the program. Bill 1594, resolution amending Resolution 227 of 2023, authorizing the Department of Parks and Recreation Office of Special Events to enter on behalf of the city of Pittsburgh into a professional services agreement or agreements with Pittsburgh Three Rivers Marathon, Inc. to provide management services for the Richard S. Caligari City of Pittsburgh Great Race in order to correct an error within the legislation to allow for the payment of $135,000 for prior year sponsorships. And Bill 1595, resolution amending Resolution Number 342 of 2022, which authorized the mayor and the Department of Parks and Recreation to enter on behalf of the city of Pittsburgh into an agreement or agreements with Allegheny County Department of Human Services for the city's operation of its senior community centers for the purpose of increasing the allocation amount by $2,000.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of the title of the bills. Are there any discussion on the bills? Seeing none, the bills are now ready for final action. All in favor of the passage, vote aye when the name is called. Those opposed will vote no. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Coghill.
Aye.
Ms. Gross.
Aye.
Mr. Kraus.
Aye.
Mr. Lavelle.
Aye.
Mrs. Strasburger.
Aye.
Ms. Warwick.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Mrs. Kim Smith, President.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
The bills having received the legally required number of votes are finally passed. And that moves us on to motions and resolutions. This afternoon at 2:30, Council will hold a cablecast post-agenda discussion on Bill 0376 as it relates to the Tri-Party Cooperation Agreement. This will be chaired by Councilwoman Gross and myself, but mostly Councilwoman Gross. Tomorrow, Wednesday, June 14th, Council will hold the Standing Committees meeting at 10 a.m. Speaker registration will close at 9 a.m. To register to speak, please fill out the sign-up form on the Council meeting webpage or call the clerk's office at 412-255-2138. Also, due to next week's Juneteenth holiday, Council's regular and Standing Committees meetings are scheduled for 10 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. respectively on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. Is there anything from the members? Councilwoman Warwick?
Yeah, I'd like to motion for a public hearing on the Verizon franchise agreement.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We'll get that, work with you to get that scheduled. Anything else from members? Seeing none, can I have a motion to excuse the absent member, approve the minutes, and adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.